Welcome. I'm Carl Frederick, and I will be interviewing individuals for Kenosha Voices, an oral history project of the Kenosha County Historical Society in conjunction with Kenosha Community Media. I have worked in newspapers for more than 40 years as an editor and a reporter. 38 and a half of those years were at the Kenosha News. I am also a member of the Kenosha County Historical Society Board. We hope you enjoy these programs. I'm speaking with Steve and Chris Allemand, co-owners of the Esther's Lamp Shop. Thank you for joining me today.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Tell me, when did your families come to Kenosha?
You go ahead.
So I would say my grandparents came to Kenosha probably back in the 30s. We have some historical things. My grandfather working out west as a lumberjack. My grandmother came here from Chicago, and they settled in Kenosha. My grandfather worked for the city of Kenosha as a garbage collector, and my grandmother was a housewife who stayed home. And my dad has 5 stepbrothers, and that would be the Helgeson family, and they were all Kenosha people also, everything from police officers to mechanics. All Kenosha people stayed all in town here.
Okay. How about on your mother's side?
Mother's side, my mom came here, her parents came here about the same time. They at one point ran a resort up north in Two Rivers, Wisconsin. My grandfather ended up coming and landing in Kenosha as an upholsterer, ran an upholstery business out of his house. My mom's mother passed away when my mother was young, maybe 8 or 9 years old, and they ran an upholstery business out of his house on 75th Street, the 2800 block of 75th Street, and that's how he made his living, as an upholsterer.
Okay, and then your dad and mother?
My dad worked for the post office for 40 years. My mom, again, was second generation here in Kenosha. They met at Acme Parts, I think it was called, down on 6th Avenue in Kenosha. My dad was a parcel post carrier. My mom was a secretary in the office. He delivered some parcel posts to him, and they met there. And then they ended up getting married, and they stayed in Kenosha. He was, again, on the post office his whole life, and my mom took care of the house and took care of us. And then she was also, for part-time, did some cooking for Unified in some of the schools.
How many siblings do you have?
I'm the oldest of 3. I have a younger brother, and I also have a younger sister. My sister is 3 years younger. She worked at Snap-on and retired. My younger brother, who's 6 years younger, was on the Kenosha Fire Department. I was also on the fire department for 31 years. My brother was on the fire department for 28 years, and then he retired. And then he ended up moving out west. He's now living in Nashville. My sister is retired and lives in Kenosha, a couple blocks from us.
Okay. Chris?
Let's see, my grandparents came from Bison in Otis, Kansas, and my grandpa worked at Specialty Brass and also at Dynamatic. And my grandma, she was pretty much a homemaker. She was a very good cook. So that's the story on them.
Okay.
Let's see, my dad, so they came up from Kansas, and then my dad did a lot with the community. He played some professional baseball.
And his name?
Bob Hartman. And he was at the PYC, which became the CYC, and of course now is the Boys and Girls Club. He was a sports director, athletic director there for many years. He also was the clerk of the circuit courts in Kenosha in the 70s, and then he did a lot with community impact towards the end of his career, and he worked at Bain Elementary, and he just really enjoyed doing a lot of things with the youth of Kenosha. And then my mom is a retired teacher with Kenosha Unified. She had over 35 years with Unified, and most of her career was at Bullen Middle School and Wilson Elementary. And my other grandparents, my grandpa, they are originally from the Kenosha County area, from Summers. But my grandpa he was born up in northern Wisconsin, and at a young age he did some logging, and my grandma's from Summers, so they resided in Summers for forever. And my grandpa worked for the Kenosha Highway Department, and he was very proud of driving the big road graders that they had. And my grandma was a very successful caterist in Kenosha, and they did some farming too out in Summers.
Okay. And you have any siblings?
Yes, I'm the oldest of 3 girls. I have a sister, Sue, who worked for Kenosha Unified for years in the main kitchen. And then I have a sister, Allison, who worked for the Kenosha News for over 30 years. And that's their story.
Were either of you involved in sports when you were in high school or anything like that?
Yeah. I played volleyball for 3 years in high school. I played softball for 3 years in high school, and then my senior year in high school was the first time that they had women's basketball in Kenosha Unified, so I got to play a year of basketball. So yeah, I grew up playing a lot of sports at a very young age.
Okay. Steve?
I attended Columbus Elementary School, Lincoln, and Tremper. I was a basketball player and a high jumper in track, and played some football. And then after high school, I went on and played a little bit of basketball in college. And again, it was always just a family activity for us. Sports just seemed to be a family thing. You know, we just, wherever we went, our parents were there, our siblings were there, and just a lot of fun to have the opportunity. Had a lot of great coaches in Kenosha. I was lucky enough at Lincoln, I had Mr. Grimes. At Tremper, I had St. Jimenez. I got to be coached by Chuck Bradley, Buzz England from town here, 2 very great guys. And again, just a very good experience.
And what high school did you graduate from?
Bradford, yeah, class of 79, so we were still in the building downtown, and I went to Washington Junior High and then Grant Elementary, and I did my kindergarten year at Summers Elementary, and then my folks moved into town, so then I went to Grant School.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did either of your parents get involved while, like, you were playing football or anything?
My dad was, he didn't really coach us specifically because he was working, but he was involved with us like in scouting. We went to St. Thomas, so he was a scout leader there, and my mom got involved with the activities that we did there, and we did that.
Did he play football?
He played football, and kind of the interesting story is he was the center on the football team, and Chris's dad was a quarterback on the football team at Bradford in the mid-50s. So that was an interesting. And then my dad was her grandmother's mailman over on 67th Street. So that was another little contact. And then and her family also had they had a sod farm out in Bristol also. So that was where I saw her a couple times out there. We were picking up sod in the early 70s, and that's where I ended up seeing her out there a few times too, before we actually formally met.
Okay, so you both graduated from the 2 high schools at the time. What did you each do after you graduated from high school?
I went to Gateway and played basketball for 2 years, and then I went out to North Dakota and played basketball for 2 years.
You didn't go out to North Dakota just to play basketball, did you?
Well, pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
That was what they gave us. So I had an opportunity for a scholarship.
Okay.
They said, yeah, I went out there, and again, made some very good friends. Had 2 years. It was a great time out there, and it was interesting. We were able to, with our relationship, make it through that 2 years, and then I came back to Kenosha, and then we ended up picking up where we left off, and ended up getting married then.
And what did you do after high school?
After high school, I went to Gateway, which was right down the road, and I actually I was in the dental assisting program, so I did that for 6 years before we bought our lamp shop. But I did play volleyball at Gateway, and I spent a little time playing some basketball there too. So it was a fun experience.
Okay.
But yeah.
Did you also go to Gateway?
Yes, I was at Gateway too, and that's how we met, was at a friend's house. I came back, she was there, we had an opportunity to talk, and I offered her a ride to school, and she took it, and then we started working out together so we can get ready for our sports, and then we went to dinner at Moe's Speakeasy, our first pizza turnover.
Which is now the Fireside.
Yeah. And then and we ended up getting married then.
Okay. And then you're working as a dental assistant.
Yes.
And what, you mentioned the fire department.
So I got hired on the fire department in 1983, and when I got hired and I went through my training and I started online, the guys talked about, because of our schedule, that we had an opportunity and flexibility to do something, and a lot of guys were talking about having a part-time business to do something. So we looked at different things, different opportunities to do different things. They said, get some income property you can maybe work on, start a business, find a business. And there was a blind ad in the paper. And at that time, a firefighter asked me to help him clean out an apartment that he had. So I was helping him clean out an apartment. And there was an old floor lamp. He was throwing the floor lamp away. So I took it out to the dumpster and I set it off to the side. And I saved it because Chris talked about wanting a lamp in our basement of our house that we had. Mm-hmm. So I set it off, and it had a broken, what we call an ornament. The bottom of the lamp was broke. It was an old vintage antique lamp. And I thought, well, you know what, I'm going to take it and fix it. You know, I can figure it out. There's a bunch, you know, I was kind of a problem solver. The guys that work with our problem solvers, I can figure this out. We can fix it. So that night, we 2 weeks earlier, we sent a blind ad letter.
What did the ad say?
The ad for the Kenosha News just basically said, business for sale, downtown Kenosha. That's all it said. And then it had a P.O. box, and they wanted you to write to the P.O. box. So I wrote to the P.O. box, put it in an envelope, mailed it, got the call, and the gentleman said to me, well, I got your letter. Are you interested in the business? And I asked him what it was, and he told me Lee Esther's Lamp Shop. And I was, again, kind of thinking about it, and I couldn't really pinpoint it or place it. So I said to Chris, I go, Lee Esther's Lamp Shop. And she goes, oh, I know where that is. That's downtown. We used to walk past it when we go to different classes and do different things for Bradford. So I told him, I said, yeah, we'd like to come look at it. So based on that, based on picking up a lamp earlier in the day to fix it, looking at a lamp store that fixed lamps, not knowing anything about fixing lamps, after Leo showed us the business, we went and talked about it for 5 minutes outside and came back, and I said, we just got to try it. So I think it was $3,000. That's all they asked for it.
Yeah, it wasn't a whole lot.
And he just wanted, because he had no children, he had nobody interested to take the business over. And I shook his hand, gave him a $100 bill. We wrote out a hand receipt for it. I went to our credit union, police and fire credit union, got the money, went back, gave it to him. We signed some other paperwork, and at the time we never even really got a lawyer or nothing. We just did it on our own. And then Chris and I said, okay, we're going to start. We talked to Leo, and at the time Leo was how old? He was 90 maybe?
Late 80s, early 90s, yeah.
And we just said we're going to give it a shot and see what happens.
So did you go with him when he saw the business?
I did.
Yes,
yeah.
both of us went.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what were your thoughts at the time?
I just walked in the store. I kind of said, what are we getting ourselves into? You know, just not knowing anything about lighting, lamps, repair, anything. But that was kind of my thought. And but
Did you ever
turned
fix
out
that
all right.
lamp?
I don't know if I ever did. I think I did.
Yeah, I think so.
But it's not like, but you know, that's a good question, because I don't know. It'd be interesting if we had it and said, this is the lamp that started it kind of for us. So that was 39 years ago. And then Leo and Esther Meyer started the business in 39. And, you know, his quick backstory on him was Leo worked at the hosiery factory in town. And his story to me was he was starting to work on unionization stuff, and the owners didn't like it, so they fired him. Well, at that time, he, as a hobby, was buying up brass beds, and he liked making lamps, and he figured out how to drill ceramic and glass. He was able to get diamond bits back then to do that kind of stuff. And he told his wife, he said, well, let's start a business. So he was gonna call it Leo's Lamps, and then she said, no, I want to be involved with you. So then her name was Esther, so they dropped the O off of his name, and then they had Lee with a space, and that's how they came up with Lee Esther's. A lot of our customers today will say, oh, that's very French, what does it mean? And I go, it means Leo and Esther Meyer, who were Germans, who lived in Kenosha on 19th Avenue. Yeah. So it was an interesting start. And one of the first memories of that was he was going to take us to show us the ropes. And he said if I had any questions, I could call him, he'd come. So he showed me a few things, how to do some stuff. He took me down to a warehouse in Chicago, and he drove. So at that 89 years old, driving on the expressway was an interesting trip. Oh. He had like an old Matador, I think it was. And the gentleman he took us to, his name was Sam Mermelstein, and Sam started his business, which was wholesale lamp parts, off Addison down in Chicago. At the same time, Leo was getting started. So they were very good friends, because they were like, Leo was one of his first customers. So they allowed me to come into the warehouse, walk around, look at stuff. That's how I learned a lot. I'd spend sometimes a half a day there. They would help me explain stuff. I'd be able to hold the parts, look at the parts, figure stuff out, tell them things. So it was a very good education. But a lot of that was simply because Leo's relationship with Sam, because of when they started back in the late 30s.
So when you got into the business, you initially knew you were going to start fixing lamps.
Yes. So Leo's the main part of their business was lamp repair. He would custom make lamps, and he told me that he was able to buy old beat up brass beds for 25 cents or 50 cents. He would take them back, and then he would use that as the main components of his lamps, and then he would buy the other fittings from Sam that he needed, all solid brass, and then he taught himself how to polish. He'd polish stuff, he'd lacquer it, he'd assemble it, he'd make lamps. Their big thing, they made a lot of vase lamps at the time. So, back over the years, a lot of fancy shades. Well, then Esther started getting into shades and sold figurines, and they sold any kind of shade that you wanted. You could have custom-made shades, you could have your own material-made shades, you could have anything you wanted. So we kind of kept that up, and over time we, I don't know, in the heyday, what did we have? We might have had eight different suppliers from all around the country that provided us with Victorian shades, and I remember cut and pierce shades.
Ballerina shades.
Ballerina shades was that shade that had the big ruffles going all the way around from the 60s and 70s. They were usually brown in color.
A lot of cylinder shades.
So we had a whole spectrum of shades, and how that's evolved and changed now is imports coming in, people able to buy online, but it is difficult to buy a lampshade without having the lamp. That's the one thing.
So what was your learning curve as far as the business? You continued to work as a dental assistant, or did you leave that business?
When we bought it in '83, I was still working. So when we bought it in '86, I was still working as a dental assistant. So I kind of had to decide, because I was doing full-time at the lamp shop and full-time at the dental office. So I ended up quitting my job at the dental office and then full-time at our lamp shop. And
so what was your learning curve like? I mean, you have all these lamps and all these parts, and
yeah, I just, I kind of caught on real good with, when people would bring a lamp in. I kind of visualized what maybe I would like to see on there, so I would just, start putting different lamps on or shades on, and just going through that process with people. Again, I never worked in sales really, so you helped me out a lot.
Because fitting a lampshade, as an example, is a matter of reducing or cutting everything. So you start off with the whole inventory in the store, and then you start to ask the customer questions like at the eye doctor. So you grab an angular shade, let's say a square shade, and a round shade that's the proper size, because you had a general idea. You'd hold it on the lamp, you ask the customer, which do you like better? Sometimes they'd say, oh, I hate that one. That one's okay. So we put it in the okay pile. The hated one would go back. Now that would eliminate any angular shades from our inventory, so that would be gone. Now we'd focus on more of the round shades, and we'd get maybe a round shade that was a little taller, get one that was a little bit shorter, put it on, which one do you like better? And they tell you which one they like. Well, now that would eliminate the tall one, so you'd work your way backwards until you actually came down to the actual shade. The process, some customers can be 10 minutes, some customers can be an hour and a half, depending on what they want to do.
But you need the lamp.
You need
Yeah.
the lamp, because Leo's thing on his business card was
Buying a lampshade without your lamp is like buying a hat without your head. And
so that was Leo's
makes
saying.
a lot of sense.
So we incorporate that, and sometimes people come in and they might say, oh, I know what I need for a lampshade. Well, then you start asking them questions, and it's not only the size, the height, the diameter, the shape, the material,
They find
it's
out
the
real quick.
fitter. So where it sits, the fitter is the wire on the inside. So the fitter, so you ask them the question, is your fitter recessed? If it is recessed, is it a 1/2 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches? And they don't know that because the shade is fit with a harp. So then you have to inventory and carry harps for all of them.
And the
there's
harp
two-
is what
a harp would be the metal hoop that goes around the light bulb. And there's 2 different gauges of those. So if you don't have the proper gauge, it's not going to fit right. So again, there's a lot of small little variables that make that business, you almost have to get the proper fit, have a lamp and try the shades on. It's very difficult for that to buy online to do it, because you could have the right shade, but if the fitter's the wrong height and you go to put it on, people would say, oh, the shade's not right, it's not long enough, it needs to be 1 inch longer. No, we need a harp that's 1 inch smaller to drop it down to the right height.
And what was your learning curve like in the business?
So I'm kind of a problem solver, but I didn't know anything about electricity. I didn't know anything, and the standard joke is electricity is a good teacher. So when you would start to wire things, you would learn, because of repairs, you would see the problems, and then you'd have to correct them. So then you would learn. So when you would wire something, or you'd re-engineer it, or you'd change it, or you'd build something, you try to incorporate that in there. But if you scunned a wire and you shorted it out and you grounded yourself, you could get a shock from it. Learning the polish was interesting. I had a couple friends who were polishers, so I talked to them. They gave me a little bit of insight into it. Polishing can be pretty dangerous, because you got a wheel that's spinning at 3,500 RPM. It's constant. You're creating friction. It's grabbing onto a piece of metal, and if you don't keep a good grip on it, that wheel will pull it out of your hands. And I've gotten hit in the face, in the head, left dents in the ceiling, and done different things with doing it. So overall, it was interesting. At one point we would give out little free coupons. Go get an ice cream cone. We're going to try to figure out what your lamp needs. And what was the name of that place?
Sweet treats.
And 2 sisters ran it.
Yeah.
So we worked a deal out, paid them like half price for cones, I think it was, and we'd give them, our customers, once they go get an ice cream cone, come back, and they'd go do that and come back. I make a phone call or look at it. I could figure out and then tell them if we could fix it or not. But I don't think in all those years, I don't think I ever really turned anything down. If I couldn't fix it, I would just say, okay, I can do it, and then I would figure it out from there. Whether I talked to the guys at the fire station who were handy, who could help, or I make a phone call down to Chicago to talk to them, or I just try things to experiment with them. We would take on projects, and it wasn't always good business decisions, because there's times that I'd work for 3 hours on something that I gave them a price of $20 to fix, and I was already committed to it. So then that's just the way it was. I'd get $20. I'd work for 3 hours, and it became more of a challenge to get it. But once you do it, then you remember it for next time.
And you retired from the fire department when?
In
December 2014.
2014. I had 31 years on the fire department.
Okay. So you also learned to make lamps?
Yeah, and it came about, you look, so like when we watch TV or you watch a movie, you can look in the background, you look at ads, you can see different things that they use as props. Sometimes they put effort into it, sometimes the shades are fit wrong, so we make comments about it. But there's a handful of fundamental cosmetic things that go into a lamp. Generally speaking, the shade as a generally is the same size as the base. So that's kind of the one rule of thumb. People are bombarded with how lamps should look. So a smaller antique lamp with a glass shade has a certain balance and look to it, has certain proportions, and if you look at them consistently, you'll see that a lot of the same style parts have been used for literally 100 years when they're putting them together. So when we would make lamps, people would bring us items. It might be a musical instrument, it could be a kid's toy, sports helmets. We've done sports helmet lamps, pretty much anything that would be non-traditional. Traditionally, we did one lamp out of an urn for a woman who her husband's remains were in, that we had to get the remains out of it and put it in a separate bag in a box to return to her. So she wanted the urn made into a lamp, which we did that. Sometimes we'll make light fixtures out of antique crystal bowls. So a bowl that's sitting on a shelf somewhere, getting no use, not doing anything. We'll drill the glass, we'll put it together, and we'll make a chandelier, or we'll make a light fixture out of it. So now every time the person walks in the room, they see it and it brings back memories. We restore a lot of old lamps that people come and say, I remember growing up, this was in my grandmother's living room all the time, and I would do this, or I would do that, or I'd do the pull chain. I pull it all the time, and I'd do it so much that I'd pull the chain out of it. My dad would have to fix it, and I remember my dad fixing it half a dozen times, and now I have it in my living room, and I pulled the chain out of it again. Can you fix it? And we'd be able to fix it. So we did all kinds. Any other lamps that you can think of?
Cameras, remember?
We did camera lamps.
Camera lamps, of course, the famous leg lamp.
The famous what?
The famous leg lamp. We've made a few of those.
From Christmas
A
Story.
Christmas Story, yeah.
And that
There's
came,
a few around town still.
because that was the Polaris brought us one early on.
Yeah.
She brought the leg.
I can't remember if she had the leg.
She had the leg.
Okay, yeah.
She wanted a lamp made out for her husband to put it in their showroom, which was on 60th Street at the time. So then we had to figure out what size shoe it had. It was a 5.5 shoe with a 4-inch heel is what we needed. Fishnet stockings you had to get, and then we had to figure out how to drill it and engineer it and put it together that way. And then we made them, and then we were making them for a while, and then the market got kind of saturated, the internet and all that other stuff. People were able to order them on computer, and back then, because the first one, how long? It's got to be like what, 30 years ago, you think?
Yeah.
We made the
It's been a
first one.
while.
Because when did that movie come out?
That movie came out, I think, the early 80s, I think. Yeah, I'm not
But
sure.
it was interesting. We made a crate for them. I had a couple customers I delivered. A buddy of mine would dress up like the delivery guys, and we'd watch the movie and do the shtick with the clipboard and that little stubby cigar and go knock on the door and deliver them to people. And it was always fun to do it. And then we'd go out after. I took the money that we made on it, and we'd split it and go out for dinner that night, do something like that. So it was always fun, though.
So how has the business changed in 39 years?
There's still a lot of repair work and restoration work, but I think what we're seeing is it used to be where people would restore their older lamps, and that was kind of what we were all about. But now what's happening, I think people just, once they're done with that lamp, they're tossing it and they want to just go buy something brand new rather than preserving something old and meaningful. So that, that's changed a lot. It's just more, but again, we still have a lot of the repairs. The repair work is still pretty steady.
The purist, the person who really has a strong sentimental feeling to have something done now. If it's like, this is an older lamp, I'm just going to reuse it, people are like, I'd rather throw it away and get a new one. But if it's, again, if they have a sentimental attachment to it, we'll still do it that way. The big evolution, I think, has been in lampshades. Cost of lampshades is continually rising. Shipping is rising. I think to ship a shade now is $10 a shade it comes out to be. It's just harder and harder there's issues with supply chain stuff. You might have one company 100 swatches, and they might have 70 of them available. So they're, oh, it's on a ship, or it's coming, or it's this, or so that's an issue with them. But the cost has gone up so much that an average living room lampshade for a nice lampshade that people would put in their living room probably is $100 to $120 now, just for a simple basic one. So sometimes people look at that cost and are like, well, I'm better off. I saw a lamp at such and such, and it was $70 with the shade delivered free, and if I don't like it, I can send it back. So that's changed. So we're battling now with the idea if we're going to continue to do lampshades. There's definitely a market for it. There's people that are very specific. They want an exact shape, an exact size, an exact color. But I don't know if that warrants enough. And a lot of lampshade repair people are older. They're passing away, and nobody's taking the businesses over. I just heard last week that the lamp shop in Highwood is she's closing. Her husband passed away, and she's going to be closing and moving back to Connecticut, I think is where she was from. So now the closest, I think they can go up to Racine or to Milwaukee to have something done, repaired. They might be able to go down, they have to go all the way down to Chicago, I think now. So there's really nothing along this corridor here, and there's plenty of work to do. It could be rebranded a little bit. I think the shades can be viable if you maybe reshape it. I don't think you can offer, we always want to offer everything. You know, I think you have to maybe limit it down. We do a lot of custom work, so with designers, they want a certain color, a certain shape. Those are the people that, again, cost is secondary to what they want for an exact finished product.
Well, how many lampshades are in the store?
Wow. What
So
do
I
we
would
have
say
now?
in the heyday, we probably had, how many you think?
Oh,
A few thousand?
couple thousand lampshades.
And
It's a lot to
now,
go through when someone brings in a lamp.
yes.
Yeah.
And again, you start, and now I would say we're probably, maybe we have, I don't know, 800, maybe.
Which is still a pretty decent inventory of lampshades,
Yeah.
but not like
when you
it
start
used
to
be.
think about it, you can have a shape or a family of shades. So let's use a coulis. A coulis is a shade that has a narrow top, a wide bottom, and it's like a Chinese hat. That's why they call it a coulis. You can then start with a small coulis to be 5 inches on the bottom. You can then go usually they'll jump every inch, so you go from 5 all the way up to maybe 20 inches. Top diameter then can start, if you want a narrow coulis, those could be, starting at maybe 3 inches and jumping up. Then you have a certain depth. And then if you want a tall coulis, well, then that's a whole nother family. So you start to see how many different possibilities there are, and it goes all the way across the board. So it's unlimited. So what we learned in the beginning was you carry the basic sizes and the basic areas, and then we would reorder by what we were selling. And we always had a wide inventory that gave us plenty of opportunities, because the key is the customer has to be able to see the shade on the lamp. It's hard. It's even hard for us to just say, well, that lamp should have a 14-inch Empire on it. It's very difficult to do that. You have to see it on there.
Okay, so about what percentage of your business is lampshades or repair work?
Repair right now is probably 80%, 85%. We do, and it's everything from, like, I'm in the process of redoing some light fixtures for over an island for a designer. Just rewiring lamps, refinishing lamps. Glassware, we used to sell a ton of glassware years ago. Glass shades where there was student shades, glass shades that would go on oil lamps, glass shades that would go on chandeliers. Now the trend is chandeliers with just light bulbs, so they don't use shades on them anymore. I think the last time we sold some glass shades was, I think last week we sold like 3 or 4 pieces, but I bet you it's, so 85% of our business is the repair and restoration part.
Okay. You mentioned earlier that there were times where you had quoted a price to a customer and it took a lot longer. How have you operated the shop over these 39 years? First of all, it was a side job. She was there every day, full time. You were working at the fire department. So what was your operating principles?
Well, one of the things we say is, as long as the customer pays, they're always right. That's the one thing we say. We always want to treat them fairly and consistently. I mean, we still will rewire a lamp. I think if we put a cord, a plug, a socket, and refelt the bottom, it's $24 to do it still. Places, the last place that was doing it down on the North Shore, that's closing now, they were charging $50 to do it. So we keep our prices reasonable. We do a local free pickup and delivery in town. And we always enjoyed that because many times they were older people. We'd go out, I'd talk to them, visit with them. There was times I'd go to their house, they'd call me, they would have a burnt out light bulb. I'd put a new light bulb in it for them. I wouldn't charge them anything and ask them, say, hey, tell 3 of your friends about us. But many times, being from Kenosha, we'd go out, we'd have an association. So within so many degrees, we would have some common thread, whether it was with her side of the family, our side of the family, mutual friends. So we always enjoyed ourselves. I'd go out and do that. So we always kind of prided ourselves, and that's where the business really grew, is we did good quality work at a very fair price. And if there was any question at all as to the price, it was always something that was would benefit the customer. So if I gave him a price and something was different than what I told him, I would take the responsibility. That was my fault because I didn't know my job good enough to be able to give the proper price up front. So I'm going to eat whatever cost there is to do that.
So you mentioned that it seemed as if many times, if not, I don't know, all the time, you would talk to a customer, you would go talk to somebody, and before too long, there was always a family connection somewhere, like
Some common thread,
Yeah.
yeah.
whether it's from your grandparents all the way down to
Yeah.
children. It's like,
Yes.
I know you because of this line to
Right.
that line to this lineage, whatever. You
Right.
find that a lot.
Yeah, and it's nice, especially being born and raised in Kenosha. It makes you feel good, and it's fun to see these people because you don't see them forever, and then they come into the shop, and yeah, you get to talking, and you know, we got something in common with somebody, or if we were, you know, we went to school together, our parents, or living in the neighborhood. So I always found that pretty interesting.
And then my dad retired from the post office and came and worked with us, so he knew a whole bunch of people in town. And then people would come in just to visit with him. He'd come upstairs, they'd sit and talk. After he passed away, another retired letter carrier, Dick Dumpke, came in, a very social guy, and people would come in just to visit with Dick all the time. And so Dick was still working with us into his mid-80s, right? He loved coming to work, and he would work at his own pace. He was real good at stuff. He worked at Johnston Hardware on 22nd Avenue part-time for years and years, so he had a lot of knowledge on different things. And people would come in, and again, is Dick downstairs? Yeah, and Dick, come on upstairs. He'd come upstairs, and he'd always have a joke of the day or something, and we would spend time just visiting and talking. So it was a social. It was also social, so we got a lot of, over the years, we got a lot of pleasure out of that. You know, sometimes dealing with the public, working in retail can be challenging. Overall, I would say our experience has been probably better than most. I think there's sometimes we look at each other and say, oh my gosh, you know, how do we want to keep doing this, you know?
And we've had a solid guy working with us, wow,
Oh, yes.
since
30 plus years.
30 plus years. Mark, he's just, you know, without him, I don't think we'd be doing this.
'Cause we met him
He's
on-
he's very good with the customers. He knows a lot, and we met him right away when we bought the shop. He came into the lamp when we were on 58th Street, and he came in, introduced himself, and he was already very experienced with lamp repair, and so we were lucky to get to know him.
Yeah, so he's been, again, with us for over 30 plus years, and
Yeah.
just, again, without him, we wouldn't be doing it, because we raised our family there.
Yeah.
We were open 6 days a week for a long time. Then as our kids started getting old enough to do activities, we were involved in all their activities, so then we changed our hours to accommodate their schedule. And because we're so specialized, it wasn't an issue with customers. It wasn't any, people would just say, okay, that's fine, we'll be there when you're open. And we did it that way. Now we've kept the hours that way.
Yeah.
We'll see what the future holds here. I mean, we're in a little bit of a transition period, trying to figure out as we've gotten older. I still have a handful of really good customers that I really like working with. 99% of the customers that come in the store are friendly, happy, easy to work with. You know, so we've really reaped the benefits of having access and contact with the public. It's been a very positive.
We were fortunate enough too to raise our kids when they were little in the lamp shop, so that was a big bonus.
And they stayed in Kenosha. They're both in Kenosha now. One's at Tremper as a case manager. Another one works at Ocean Spray. They married local girls whose parents, dads I grew up with, played sports with. We hung out together growing up, and now we are family in-laws. So we do social activities together, and everybody knows. So my younger son's in-laws know my older son's in-laws. So we all grew up together. So when we do a function, there's again times we could have 70 or 80 people there, and everybody knows everybody, and we're all telling silly old stories about maybe we competed against each other in high school doing something, or all these other things. But it's just, again, for us, it's a very comforting feeling, and we're lucky, knock on wood, that we had the chance to have the business. I had the job as a firefighter. She was able to raise our kids at the store, have the interactions with people from Kenosha. So we are Kenosha through and through. We just love it.
My grandma Hartman, she used to take a bus downtown when we still had the mall on 6th Avenue, and she'd go over to Walgreens, and then she would come over to the lamp shop when we were still in that location, and I'd be like, okay, Grandma, here you go, and I'd give her one of the kids, and she would have one of our sons on her lap the whole afternoon, and she just loved socializing with people and holding one of the babies, and it helped me out a lot too, but it was always fun to have her popping in at the shop every once in a while when she'd run her little errands to Walgreens. So that was a fun memory.
So looking back on the initial move to today, it sounds like everything has worked out fine.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. And you can't guess, and we're thinking, what else could you do? And sometimes things just fall in place. Sometimes things happen. I mean, the reason I got hired on the fire department, I was working out at a gym called the Body Shop. A guy came in and said, hey, they're taking a test on the fire department. You got to take out an application. And I was not like a kid, like, oh, I want to be a fireman. I want to do this. I want to do that. I said, oh, that sounds, and he explained the job to me, and I said, I'm going to do it. So I went and took out an application, went through the testing process, got lucky enough to get hired. And looking back with hindsight, I couldn't have had a better job. But if I wasn't at the gym that morning, working out, and he was there, I'd have never heard about it. I would have never took the test. I would have never did anything. And then, and to have the opportunity to raise our kids turned out to be decent kids. And now I can see with their kids, they're doing a lot of the same things that we did. They're very involved with their kids. They're doing activities with their kids. I hear them saying a lot of the same things I can remember us saying to them. And a lot of it was because we were together all the time. I mean, that's what it was. It was our family together, and that's just the way it was. So, again, it was very, very lucky.
So how long does this last?
I don't know.
My kids are saying, Dad, it's enough. Let's close it. We can rent the building. We own the building, so we can rent the building out. You can do this, you can do that. But I do have an underlying feel obligation, because I'll say to her, I'll go, well, who's going to fix these old people's lamps? Well, we're old now. So, but you look and say, who's going to fix these old...
We have the old man lamp shop now.
Yeah, who's going to fix these old people's lamps and do it for, again, sometimes they'll come in, and sometimes these older people, older than us, will come in. They're a little confused about something, and we start looking at it. And again, there's times we just fix them up and don't even charge them, because I'm like, boy, oh boy, they have nobody else to help them. So again, it's just a lamp and it's doing that. But I wish we had some younger person who had an interest who would come and say, yeah, I want to learn this. I want to rebrand it my own way. I can keep the basics here. I think there's a good solid foundation there, because craftsmanship, when I go down and I work with these interior designers it's kind of in an area where quality is above cost. So they're trying to get, painters and plasterers and all these other tradespeople, and all they talk about all the time is how difficult it is to find people. And I have a lot of the customers going, you can't retire, Steve, you can't quit, you can't do this because we need you to come. So there is an opportunity there, and with our grandkids, we're involved with them. Our family's important to us, so I spend less time at the store. But if somebody was back and they were going to put in, because at the time we would work 14 hours a day. Working a 14-hour day at the lamp store was nothing when we were younger.
Monday through Saturday.
We would take my fire department check, deposit it, pay some of our bills for the lamp store, and go, hopefully we get enough work from the lamp store to cover it. And lucky enough,
there's just some really good things happening in Kenosha, and I think it's just in downtown Kenosha, and it's gonna continue. So that's a real good positive thing to see, and being a part of that.
There's new blood coming in downtown. Younger people are taking an interest.
That's
I think
good.
that Mayor Taramian did a great job with stuff he was working on. Bagdala's doing good, has a vision, is doing good things with what he sees, and overall I think the city's run good. The people are decent. I can't believe how many people will say to us, oh, I'm here from such and such. They'll stay at the Stella Hotel, they'll walk down the street, they'll come in a store, and they'll say, oh, I can't believe how friendly people are here. I can't, I was talking, and so again, it's a good place. It's just lucky to fall to be in this place, to be born here and raised here, and have the opportunity to come back and stay here. So we'll see.
Maybe you have to put out a blind ad.
I should do it that way. Put it in the Kenosha News, a little blind ad, and do it. And then because the person that would
not
answer,
for $3,000.
could be a little more. I'd sell it for anything. But that might, the person that would answer a blind ad is a person who has some initiative and drive, and that's the kind of person we're looking for.
Looking for the next you.
You never know.
Wouldn't that be interesting? That's a good idea. A blind ad. Instead, because now everybody, if you put it, you know what? That's an interesting idea.
You're not ready yet.
No, gosh.
In the Kenosha News, we do it again. Blind ad, send it to this, and then they have to handwrite a letter. So that would be something that most people would be like, what? What do you mean I can't text them? I can't. I like that idea. If it works out, you get a cut of the action.
Well, thanks for joining me today.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you for having us, and thank you for your patience.
Yes.
It was a pleasure.
It was fun.
It was fun to reminisce, because we went back after we talked the first time, and we kind of sat down and reminisced about stuff. And sometimes things move so fast, you get going in things and you forget about all that stuff. And we talk about those things, getting up early in the morning and packing Nathan up and putting him in a backpack and bringing bottles and diapers and getting on the road and picking stuff up. And again, work a 16-hour days, it's like a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
Now I get, like when I'm done here, I have to sneak back, but put in 4 hours and I'm going, how much longer?
I'm not in the shop pretty much at all anymore. So once the first grandchild came along, I was...
Time shifted.
Yes, it was time to hang out with the grandkids.
Yeah, but we see people all the time. Oh, hi, Steve, and it's just because of the lamp store.
Yeah.
So I think Leo would be happy.
I think so.
Well, thank you.